Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about positional chess, how to get better at positional chess, as well as everything in between. So let's get started. So if we'd like to improve at positional chess, first we have to understand what positional chess is. And positional chess, in the most simplest way, is simply improving your position while degrading your opponent's position. Positional chess includes slow, sometimes prophylactic moves, which either improve your position or stop your opponent from performing a certain task. A lot of the time, positional chess moves will only yield results 15, 20 moves down the line. So today we're going to be talking about how to get better at that, how to understand which type of moves you have to play, and the learning process. First off, I'd like to demonstrate this position. So what we can notice here is that player with the black pieces has two connected passers. This is considered very good, and a lot of the time, if you have two connected pass pawns, you're generally going to be winning a lot of those games. The best move is a4. Why is this the best move? Well, because connected pass pawns are much better when they're placed together on the same rank. That is because they're much harder to target because at any moment you can push one of them and they become very difficult to blockade. So usually, if you're facing connected pass pawns, you want to blockade by placing a piece on one of them so that they cannot advance. That really takes away from the whole connected pass pawns thing if you can blockade one. To understand what to do in certain positions, you have to understand the themes and then you have to learn about them. So after each game, let's say you've lost a game and you don't really understand why, you can go into analysis and check what happened. And if you notice, for example, oh, I lost this game due to my opponent having connected pass pawns, you can then go and search for games which had connected pass pawns. You can search for videos such as this one, and I will have an entire series which covers different positional concepts. And you can find sources of information from which you can learn. There are books that cover pass pawns, and there are books that cover every other positional aspect of the game. And by the way, if you did notice the tactic of this rook taking the pawn, since it's protected by the queen, there's this very nice tactic move, which is queen c6, which forks both the rook and this checkmate threat with the bishop and queen battery. And so a lot of positional concepts are reinforced by tactics because, I mean, most of chess is. And so it's important to understand that you still need tactical vision and you can improve tactics with puzzles and just playing the game. But positional chess is incredibly important to understand, and it's very difficult to understand a lot of those concepts without learning from, other players. So another way to learn is to analyze grandmaster games where the same positional concept occurred and you can see how they deal with these concepts. And the best way to do that is probably find annotated games, which means those games were analyzed and reviewed by other players, so they left some comments on it, and you can learn a lot from that because analyzing on your own can be sometimes difficult, especially understanding the ideas behind the moves. Okay, how do we know what we want to prioritize and what we want to learn? Ultimately, you're going to have to learn everything if you want to become a strong chess player. You're going to have to know a lot, but primarily start with the things that arise from your own games in your own openings that you play. So let's say you play the Grunfeld. You have to understand how to play with the Grunfeld center, how to fight against the space advantage that white has. And a lot of different openings have their own thematic nuances and positional characteristics, which you can learn. And that way it'll be a lot easier for you to understand what you have to learn in the first place. But if you want to become a stronger chess player in general, it's going to be useful to learn everything, of course. That's going to take a lot of time. So just start with your weaknesses, start with the things that arise from your own positions, get better at that, and you will slowly notice improvement in your own games. Now let's take a closer look at this position and just explain some of the thought processes. So after the move a4, the opponent here played rook b1, which is a very strong move. And the point is that if you play something like b3, well, right away this rook can come out to a1, and now this pawn is blockaded. This pawn cannot ever come out to a3, and I mean, the pawn isn't blockaded right now, but technically there's an invisible barrier which prevents it from going to a3 because now this pawn is just hanging. And this position is completely winning for white because the main asset for black in this position is, of course, the connected pass pawns. And without him, black will be a lot worse because white has this monster center and very nice piece activity. So rook b1 was a very nice move, and b3 actually arises in this game. But in this position, the player with the white pieces played bishop a1, which is, it's not like a terrible move right away, but it is a mistake. And this is what positional chess is, because right away you don't notice any sort of tactics. However, this already set the precedent for the advancement of this a pawn in the future, and it made it very difficult for white to blockade these pawns. So black has a very clear plan now, and the positional misunderstanding of this position cost white the advantage that they could have had otherwise. Now, what about positions which aren't clearly defined by a certain theme? For example, this is a theme with pass pawns. However, let's say you just want to make a slow prophylactic move, not to do with this position. Here's an example of a position where a slow move will be important and just how to understand these sort of positions. So let's take this game, for example, which arises from a Caro-Kann 2 knights variation. So here, let's say white plays the move e5, kicking the knight out. This sends the knight back to d7. From here, you can say that white has a lot more space and white is better, but actually that's not quite true. For example, if white chooses the castle, the move and the slow move that a lot of people would struggle with is the move c5. So why are we playing c5? Well, this clearly allows the knight to come out to c6, which is very common in the Caro-Kann. So if you play the Caro-Kann, you will know these strategies very well. This move will be the first thing that comes to your mind. However, as somebody who, let's say, never has played the Caro-Kann, this move may take a long time to understand. And what I'm trying to hint at is if you understand the ideas in the openings that you play, positional chess gets a lot easier because those ideas transfer into almost every variation of different openings that you play or in a lot of different move orders, situations, and you'll be able to use those to your advantage without having to think much about that. As well, this also means that learning new openings and new concepts is going to be useful because the ideas in those openings will often transfer into your own openings and different sidelines, variations, and whatnot, which you can use once again to your advantage. What I'm really trying to say is that if you learn your openings very well and then you learn the sort of concepts that arise from your openings, positional chess gets a lot easier and your games are going to be a lot easier. And you don't have to know every single opening in the world. And if you don't want to learn opening moves or theory, at least try to understand the ideas of the opening, and that will assist you in improving your positional chess in those specific variations. Now, lastly, if you just want to improve your positional understanding altogether in pretty much every position, the thing I would recommend is a book with positional chess puzzles. An example of that is like Chess Tests by Mark Dvoretsky, very good book. And if you don't have access to books, for example, you can always use online puzzles. There are a bunch of online resources to do, positional chess puzzles. There are even videos which feature those, and you can learn from those. They will feature a mashup of different openings and variations, different middle games that you've probably never seen. And by learning from those, you're exposing your brain to new concepts and ideas, which will in turn just make you a better, stronger player. And you will intuitively be more inclined to spot better and stronger moves. That summarizes everything I wanted to show you guys for this video. I know this was a shorter video, but I felt like this was necessary, and this is sort of the starter video before I start my positional chess series, which will cover all of the positional chess concepts available, and each video will be used to teach and explain those specific concepts. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out a video to my left. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.